بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. First, I'd like to thank our brothers, beloved brothers here in Slough for inviting me and Akh Abu Fajr to this gathering and this lectures series. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from them and us and allow it to be beneficial. The talk today, inshallah, that I wish to share with the brothers is the challenges facing the youth. And as we know, the youth, they face challenges wherever they are, whether they be here in this city, or this part of the UK, or back in Canada where we're from, or in America, or in the Muslim countries. And the challenges are many and they're varied. And it's important for the Muslims to address this, because if the youth become wasted or lost, or the challenges they're facing are not something they can overcome, then we're going to have tremendous issues in our societies. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he came to the people as a prophet and messenger, majority of those who followed him were the shabab. As Hafid ibn Kathir mentions in al-Bidayah wa Nihaya. Majority were youth. And this is why the da'wah was spread by way of the youth. And we want to take some of those examples and benefits to bring to our society, our times, so we can rectify the youth the same way Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did. Brothers and sisters, the first benefit I want to share with us is the importance of the youthful age. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us that being young is a very important benefit and ni'mah, blessing. Abdullah ibn Abbas reported radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, اغتنم خمسا قبل خمس شبابك قبل هرمك وصحتك قبل سقمك وغناك قبل فقرك وفراغك قبل شغلك وحياتك قبل موتك. Benefit from 5 before 5. شبابك, your youth, قبل هرمك. Here you have to benefit from your youthfulness before your old age, and your health before your sickness, and your wealth before your poverty, and your wealth, time of richness, and your free time before your busyness, and your life before your death. The fact that he mentioned, alayhi salatu wassalam, the youthfulness is one of the most important reminders that when you are young, you have the greatest bounty. Free time, energy, capacity to work and to do good things. But it's not that easy, because we know when you're young, you're also not serious. You see, we have to complicate it a little bit. Some will say the young people, they have all the time. They have all the energy, but why they don't do anything? Because they don't have the wisdom that comes with age. And that's what we'll see later. Many of the Sahaba and the Salaf, they consider those who are young to be also those who are in a state of unseriousness. Typically, young people are not the wisest. Imam ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he mentions this, but Imam ibn Mas'ud before him, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, that shabab, the youthfulness, shu'batun min junoon. It's a branch of craziness. Because when you're young, I think they say young and restless, young and unwise. So you have the free time, but you don't have the aql. And one of the imams in the past, he mentioned the old people, they have the wisdom, but not the energy and the effort and time. And the young people, they have the time and the health, but not the wisdom. And that's why Allah makes it a test. When we're young, we have all this capacity, and we might not be using it. Brothers and sisters, if we're told to take care of our youth, and it's a hadith sahih, كما صححه Imam al-Albani في Sahih al-Targhib, scholars, they say to use your youth before your old age means you benefit from the acts of obedience when you're able to before you're unable to due to old age. So then you will remorse being undutiful to your Lord. And this was mentioned by Imam al-Munawi in Faisal Qaadir. When you're young, if you waste the time now, and later you say, I will get better as a Muslim. When you get old, you get weak, and then you're not able to do the things you could have done when you were younger. And how many of us, when they get older, they remorse and they regret the wasted time. So much could have been done when we were young. So the first advice for our brothers and all those who are listening, all of us who are young, to take advantage of our youthfulness. Some may say, how long is it before I'm no longer a youth? Ulama, they differed. Some said up to 30, some said 40, hatta some said 50. So all of us maybe are youth. Because there's a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Abu Bakr made the hijrah, and they came to Medina, no one knew who Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was. So they saw Abu Bakr, they said, Abu Bakr, shaykhun yu'raf. Abu Bakr was a shaykh, everyone knows. What Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, shabun la yu'raf. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was a shab. He looked young, but no one knew who he was. So people thought Abu Bakr was Rasulullah. Then they realized Rasulullah is actually the one with Abu Bakr. And they called him Shab. Even though Rasul was older, alayhi salam, than Abu Bakr, because he looked young. And Imam Shawkani said this is evidence you can call even maybe a 50-year-old. Because how old was Rasul at that age? He started 40, 13 years, 53. 53. And they said they thought he was a Shab. So all of us should not despair and say, oh, I'm too old, I missed that boat. No, we're all in this, inshallah. However, brothers, we have to be honest. Many of our youth, they're wasting their time because they might not see clearly the vision that's set out for them. They don't know necessarily what they're supposed to do with their time and energy. And we have to advise them that time, your energy, your capacity, your opportunities, they're limited. Take the advantage now. Because hayat dunya, the life is full of preventatives. And when we understand this, we know that what you have today as opportunity could be closed tomorrow. You know, this is very important. Many youth, they think, oh, I can go to school whenever. I can get training whenever. I can do this whenever. No, that's not true. Life doesn't work that way. And to prove this, the scholars, they mentioned the hadith Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, when the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told everyone, Badiru bil a'mali sittan, hasten to do good deeds before 6 things happened. And when he mentioned this, he mentioned one of the things that will be a preventative that prevent you from taking advantage of what you have now. I mean, 6 things will happen, will change your life, or change the situation of people. And one of them, he said, أَوْ خَاصَةَ أَحَدِكُمْ أَوْ أَمْرَ الْعَامَّةِ, which translates to a specific or general matter affecting you or the people. Commentators on this hadith, they said, what is this specific affair? They say it means preventatives like sickness, poverty, pride, wealth, children, etc., etc. So something that comes up in your life, khasatan, that takes you away from the things you could have done. Or something that affects society, amma, in general, which no longer you're not able to do it. Brothers and sisters, if we understand this point, no one should waste the opportunity in front of them. If you're young, you must seize the opportunity right now. And this is why the hadith says, take advantage of 5 before 5. It's a command for us to be hasting towards that and to try our best to utilize it. With this being said, we need to now turn our attention to what the youth are facing currently that is making the difficulty. We can see both with our eyes and we can hear with our ears and we can read in studies that youth here in this country specifically and generally across the world are going through challenges. Challenges to do with their identity, challenges facing them in their employment, outcomes, getting work and providing for themselves and their families, challenges regarding their free time, getting with the wrong crowd, crime and violence. And we'll cite some of the studies that have come out, most recently the census of 2021 here in the UK, and what it tells us about the challenges Muslim youth face in the UK. Because it's important to know your society, to know your audience, what is going on. And it's not all to do with violence. And we know this, that many youth might be involved in crime. That's not the only challenge, it's one of them. But we must be mindful that there are challenges facing the youth. Sometimes we tell ourselves, especially those who are older, when I was young, things were different. What's wrong with this generation? Well, you lived in one era and they live in another. You have your challenges, they have their own. And your challenges maybe give you a hard time, but you forgot. And that's also important not to look down on the youth. Because this is another problem that we may face. We find them struggling and we say, well, they're just weak. They're just soft. They don't know anything. We don't help them. We may criticize them. كَذَلِكُمْ كُنْتُمْ مِنْ قَبْلُ. That's how you used to be before. فَمَنَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ. And Allah then gave you favor. So if you're practicing now, well, let's not pretend we didn't have a history, but we're all over the place. Then we see someone struggling, we say, come on, do the right thing, as if you took the advice the first time around. We have to have that empathy. But we also need to understand what they're facing. One of the challenges is who they are, identity. And this means that many youth, Muslim youth living here in the UK or abroad feel shy to be Muslim in public. If you ask them, why don't you feel proud? A Muslim sister, why don't you wear your hijab and be proud? Because of what people think about us, what they're going to say, Islamophobia, etc. So as Muslims, we need to develop the identity of the youth. And the way we do that is we've got to teach them the mahasin, the virtues, the merits of Islam. We teach them what does it mean to be Muslim, what does it look like, and to be proud. We have the guidance from Allah Rabbul Alameen. The people around us, they're walking through dhulumat, in misguidance and darkness. Right? They don't have religion, many people. They're not people who can have any fadl over you. But if we feel now that we don't have anything, and they have everything, Because we're measuring ourselves based on what? The dunya. We have to measure ourselves first in deen. This is the dunya. The best thing you have is deen. And scholars say that Muslims should be proud to be from the Muslims. قال الله تعالى ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين. Who's better in speech? The one who does good deeds. Who's better than the one who calls to Islam and does good deeds and says I am from the Muslims? This last part, وإنني من المسلمين, I am from the Muslims. This is the part where we feel proud. Proud not from arrogance, but not shy of being a Muslim. Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah commenting on this in Tafsir Surah Al-Fussilat, he says, from the benefits of this noble verse is that it's necessary for the Muslim to be honored by his religion, to profess it and say, I am from the Muslims. He should not be shy if it's said to him that he is a Muslim due to this verse. You see, Allah says, who's better? You walk like this, I have the best religion. Not that I'm going to look down on people and say, you're a kafir, I'm a Muslim, you're no good. I have to give them da'wah. But when someone asks you, Muslim? Yes, I'm a Muslim. But you say with your chest, I'm proud. Not because I know this is the haqq. But if someone says you're Muslim and say, I'd rather not answer. Or when you do the survey and the work, I leave it blank, I don't want them to know. Oh, this where is it coming from? The lack of identity. Because we think if we say Muslim, I won't get hired. Or fi السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ مَا تُوعَدُونَ, Allah says, in the heavens your rizq, what you've been promised. So we don't have to worry about that. Allah promised that. Allah promised that. But did Allah say to us that our Jannah is guaranteed? No, you see, this is the most important point. You got to work on that side. Allah took care of the other side. So the Muslim youth have to be told, be proud of being Muslim. Show them the example. Educate them about their history. Show them the role models in Islam. Teach them the teachings. Because you can't be proud of something you don't know. And you can't be proud of something you don't understand. Right? Someone told you to be proud of something. You say, I don't know it. That's the problem. If someone doesn't know it, he can't be proud. So we must start with this. But we also have to face another problem, which is inferiority complex. The inferiority complex is when young people feel that Islam is less and the disbelievers have something else. They're progressing, we're behind. And this is because we're starting from the 19th century. Our worldview begins when you were born. Most of us, that's all we know. What started at the time period of your life. If you asked what happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 100 years ago, I don't know. And we think in our heads the non-Muslims were running the world for millions of years. Brothers and sisters, less than 250 years ago is this situation we have today where Muslims are down and non-Muslims are up. 250 years ago, everyone will be proud to be Muslim, the non-Muslims were walking behind us. But we have what we call historical social amnesia. Because we're young, we don't know any better. Open the history books, take a look. And scholars explain that when someone has an upper hand over you, in terms of dunya and influence, it makes you not like yourself, I want to be like them. Take a look at this speech. The Shaykh, you could call him historian, we call him Mu'arrikh, Ibn Khaldun, died 808 Hijri. Very famous, the first sociologist in Islam. Ibn Khaldun, the scholars, they cite a specific statement of his that he wrote in his Muqaddimah, Introduction to Tariq. And he writes about a principle, that the people who always win the battles, or those who lose or they get defeated by another people, always want to imitate the one who won the battle in his distinct mark, dress, occupation, and all his other conditions and customs. Ibn Khaldun was a very, very wise historian. He looked at the patterns of life. He found any time a society gets defeated physically in a battle or invaded or loses economically or politically to another nation, the one who lost starts to imitate the one who beat them. So hence, when we see today our youth, what they're looking up to the Western culture, pay attention. This is the era of the West. We want to be like them. So many of the youth, they feel this way, they subconsciously, they only feel comfortable when they dress like them, walk like them. But if someone told you, be like Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's not going to say it's wrong, but he doesn't feel that comfort. And not realizing that his mind has been colonized by this idea. So as Muslims, to defeat this kind of feeling, and this is what he writes in his book, you can find it in English even, translated, this statement, and he mentions examples from Andalus, because Ibn Khaldun lived in Tunis. And he wrote this examples in Andalus. When they lost, eventually, Andalus Muslims had to flee and they were exiled, they started copying the ways of the Christians who defeated them, even though for 700 years we were ruling the era and they were copying us. So we must understand the challenge the Muslim youth are facing. It's not something easy. We tell them dress like a Muslim. Not everyone can do it unless first he conquers what is in his mind, that feeling he has in him that people are going to look at me. Be proud first. And also understand where this feeling is coming from. Where is it coming from? Because to imitate is dangerous. The imitation of others is dangerous because you lose your identity, and if you imitate the disbelievers, we know the hadith, "Man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum." Whosoever imitates the people, he's from them. However, brothers and sisters, we also need to understand what happens if you start to be a practicing Muslim in a Muslim minority community. What will be the outcome? Many Muslims think if I start practicing, I'm going to get beaten up in the streets and I'm going to lose my job. Maybe in some places it could be this way, but vast majority of places is not the case. This is something playing in your head. And I'm going to give you something very beautiful. Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, in his time he analyzed, because he lived in Syria, but he sees the Muslims across the world, how they're living. And he found a pattern, or he found a realization. He says in Majmu' Fatawa, volume 18, page 167. He says, like this you find, those Muslims who are holding fast to Islam in the land of disbelief have happiness every time they increase in holding on to Islam. What is he talking about? Muslims who live in minorities, who hold fast to the Sunnah, the more they practice the deen, up their happiness goes. And he says, if any issue arises amongst them, it's due to their sins. Even the polytheists and the people of the book, if they see a Muslim who is establishing their deen, and then they honor him, respect him, and pardon him for the actions which those who they see, who are claimed to be or who ascribe to Islam do, because they are not the ones who are respected. What is he saying here? Every time you practice the Sunnah and more of Islam amongst the non-Muslim societies, the higher your respect goes amongst them. Wallahi wa billahi wa tallahi, brothers, all of us can witness that. When you walk down the street with your thobe or a sister with jilbab, they pardon you, they move away the street for you, and they talk to you nicely. You see, you're certain, you're confident. But if you try to mix with them, they can still see you're Muhammad, you're Aisha. They know. But they also see one who's not confident. And you're not confident, they won't be either. This is what we should be telling them. Ibn Taymiyyah writes about this 700 years ago. And today many of us, he was talking about Britain. He didn't see Britain. But you have a society, even Canada we don't have. It's an opportunity Muslim youth to be empowered to say, be practicing. What are you scared of? You will see, in fact, more respect. Brothers and sisters, we see more than this. We see them coming to Islam. They're so impressed by us, they become Muslim. Because this is what they're looking for, and they finally find it in us. So the first one, we have to avoid identity or crisis. We need to work on it. We need to lecture about Islamic scholars, Islamic leaders in the past, those in the present. When they talk about Islamic history, we need to teach them the teachings. We should not take for granted our youth, they know our history. They don't know it. And maybe some of us, we have to admit, maybe we don't know either. So we start with ourselves, then we teach the next. The next one I want to talk about, how to help the youth, is dealing with the issue of responsibility, mas'uliyah. Many Muslim youth, they feel that they have no responsibility because they will say, well, I don't have a family to take care of. I don't have a job to keep. I don't have any bills to pay, so I'm free, time to have fun. And this issue of lack of mas'uliyah comes from the idea that mas'uliyah is only for those who have positions. Sharia never taught us that. The Sharia tells us everyone's responsible, even if you have nothing in your life except your body and your aql and your soul. If you're just a person who has nothing, no one to take care of, no one to look after, even though there's no one who's like this, right? I don't know anyone who doesn't have parents or siblings or something. There's no one who's just sitting there, have no one to take care of, no one responsible. But let's say you had nothing. You're still responsible for yourself. And look at the hadith we all know, hadith Abdul ibn Umar, radiallahu anhu, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. Everyone's ra', everyone's a shepherd, and everyone's mas'ul, responsible for their flock. Hafiz ibn Hajar, rahimahullah, in Fath al-Bari, he raised a question. We know this hadith applies, as it says, the imam, the husband, the wife, the ruler. Then he raised the question, what about the one who has none of that? Is he mas'ul? Is he a shepherd? He said, yes. He's a shepherd over his limbs, shepherd over his body, shepherd over his eyes and tongue, shepherd over his whole self. Today our youth, they say, oh, I don't have any responsibility. Yes, you do. Behave yourself with your eyes. Behave yourself with your hands. Take care of your body. Take care of your deen. You're mas'ul. فَسَوْفَ تُسْأَلُونَ. And Yawm al-Qiyamah will be asked. So to challenge this point, when we see the shab walking around, maybe he doesn't have much to do, we tell him, right now you don't have much to do, comparatively, but you're still responsible for yourself. But because the mas'uliyah for them, responsibility means when you get older, you take all the other responsibilities. Right now it's time to abuse and misuse. And this comes from what? Wrong understanding of responsibility. That's why we find many youth, maybe they're using drugs, doing violence. He's a ra', he's a shepherd, failing his flock, his hands and his legs and his mind. So we need to raise this awareness and then take a look at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He has all the young Sahaba with him. How did he train them to become successful? Example, Ali radiallahu anhu, when he came to Islam roughly around 10 years of age, He was the first child to Islam. At age 20, in the Battle of Badr al-Kubra, Ali was 20 years old. Imam Dhahabi mentions he was the flag bearer in Badr at 20. And then later, a few years later, Ali was sent to Yemen to become a Qaadir. Even though he doesn't have the necessary background, the Rasul trained him, gave him the principles, dua, and he sent him. Then the Rasul received a letter from Ali that the people of Yemen, a group of them accepted Islam. Prophet invested in the youth, young. And if you want even more, we don't have time for it. If you want a better example in terms of how the increments have changed, take a look at the biography of Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr radiyallahu anhuma. See how his father Zubayr raised Abdullah. From beginning age all the way till he becomes the Khalifa, Hafid Kitabillah, Alim, businessman, polylingual, all of that. Anything you can imagine, dunya, he has it. And the deen. And you look at his example, how did he become successful? His father started with him when he was a young boy. But today what happens for us, we look at our youth, we just let them play, have fun, because again, society says this, it's time for fun. They finish the college. Okay, now, you ready to be serious? How can he? 15, 17 years of having fun. I need another couple of years to get used to it. Next thing you know, he's past his 20s, he's still not doing anything. And brothers and sisters, we have to be honest. If you want someone to become a leader, you can't born them like this. You got to train them. So we must tackle the responsibility, especially for the boys, because they're the leaders of the household. We have to start young and we have to teach them responsibility, because that will also prevent them from running away from responsibility. And from the responsibility is da'wah ila Allah. From the responsibility, carrying the deen. From the responsibility, going to the masjid. Okay, so when we find the youth slacking at this, if they're slacking in the deen, they're slacking in the dunya. Don't doubt it. You're not going to find anybody who's mashallah tamam, and his dunya is mashallah is good, and his deen is not. No, he's missing the classes, he's missing the salah. He's missing, he doesn't read Quran, doesn't do any studies, no revising. We shouldn't be foolish. If he's revising one angle, the question is why? Why one angle, not the other? Did we teach him this? But what we find today, some of the youth in every janib, all the janib, he's not doing good. So we need to start from young and say responsibility is part of life. This dunya is daru ibtila, don't be scared. You're going to make mistakes, it's part of life. And this is the next one, which is the job and employment. And this is specifically for the men, more so than the sisters. As we know today, our brother Fajr spoke about the times and the conditions for sisters to gain employment and how to do so. But we know for the men, they have to take care of their household. They have to earn halal rizq. And this is very important because we live in a society where there's opportunity, but sometimes we don't want to take the opportunity. We live in a time where if we don't work to do something halal and busy ourselves to earn halal, either we'll earn haram, that's possible, or we don't earn anything and we're not contributing to society. You see, brothers and sisters, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam attached the earning of halal rizq as a type of jihad fi sabilillah. This is jihad, type of jihad, striving the path of Allah to earn rizq. حديث أبو هريرة رضي الله عنه أخرجه طبراني والصححه إمام الألباني حديث كعب بن عجرة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم صحابه والسلم ودي مر على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم رجل فرأى أصحاب رسول صلى الله عليه وسلم من جلده ونشاطه. The Sahaba one day was sitting with Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He saw a young man come by and he saw the quwwah, the strength and energy that he had because he's doing some work. So one of them said, Ya Rasulullah, لو كان هذا في سبيل الله. Ya Rasulullah, if only he used that quwwah to fight in the path of Allah. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them, إن كان خرج يسعى على ولده صغارا فهو في سبيل الله. If he's going out to work with that energy to take care of his young children, فهو في سبيل الله. He is actually in the path of Allah. He's not done yet. وإن كان خرج يسعى على أبوين شيخين كبيرين. He's going out to take care of his old, frail, elderly parents. فهو في سبيل الله. He's in the path of Allah. And then he said, وإن كان خرج يسعى على نفسه. Well, if he's going out for his own benefit, يعفها فهو في سبيل الله. And he's going out to take care of himself from begging and being dependent on others, then he's in the path of Allah. وإن كان خرج يسعى رئاء ومفاخرة فهو في سبيل الشيطان. وفي رواية وإذا خرج يسعى مكاثرة. If he's going out to show off, to boast, just to gain more money for no benefit, we say I have more than you, فهو في سبيل الشيطان. This hadith is a powerful hadith to remind us when you go to work, fi sabilillah, you're in the path of Allah. Halal rizq is a type of jihad, it's a type of striving, because we know, we're the men here, the boys here, men here, no one wants to go to work every day. No one wants to go to their job every day. No one wants to face the employer every day. But why are you doing it? To take care of yourself and your family. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows, He sees what you're doing. And all the money you gain, then they take some of our taxes, and some of it you pay the bills, you end up with nothing. And some people sit and say, Astaghfirullah azim, I just might as well quit. And you're in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't give up. But what we have today, our youth, many of them might say, well, forget all of that. I don't need to do that. I'll just sit back and relax. Then who's going to take care of you and your parents? Who's going to take care of you and your family? Brothers and sisters, just before coming, I took a look at the census 2021. And it says, with the Muslim youth here in the UK, they have the highest level of unemployment between the ages 16 to 64, or 51.4%. A'udhu billah, almost half, compared to 70.9% of the overall population. These type of things are not something small. For the ummah, we might not take it as something difficult. We know the wada' we're living in, the climate, it's not easy to get good work or halal work. We must strive. But when the society looks and says, well, the Muslims, they don't really work, those Ahl al-Dunya will say, was this Islam for the people of the deen or in the masjid, or for those who are in the masjid outside of it? We must also remember, you striving and sacrificing your time to go and do your work is part of Islam. And some may say, but what of my talib al-ilm, brother? I need to seek the knowledge. No one's telling you not to, and I'm going to come to that. But does Islam say seek knowledge and don't work, or work and don't seek knowledge, or does it say do both? Do both. And the reason why it's important for our youth to do this, when you're busy with halal, you're away from the haram. The one who's in the streets or on the road, if you ask him what he's doing with his time, he's not working clearly, because no one's work hours are like that flexible. No one has time that this guy has. If he just went to work, perhaps he will stay from the haram. And even some studies have shown radicalization is connected to job opportunities. Many extremists become extreme because they have no job, no one to take care of. That's it. If he went to work, it's all gone out of his head. Because remember, the people who radicalize, who are getting radicalized, one of the qualities, sufaha ahlam. They have wild ideas, hudatha al-asnan, young at age. So you want to get the ideas out of his mind, go to work, see what life is really about. Right? You go to work first, if you see reality. And also you come down, because now you have someone to take care of your parents. You feel, mashallah, I'm responsible. I don't have time to this craziness. Whatever they're calling, right? Telling us to do extreme things. And it's also a counterpoint against the extremists who come and tell people, let's go to whatever they claim to be fi sabilillah. Akhi, you can't hold a job. What are you talking about fi sabilillah? What are you talking about? If you can't do this fi sabilillah, are you talking about the other one? Ibn Qayyim says, we know, finding the path of Allah, jihad is anwa'. And it's a word that has many meanings. One of them is striving against your nafs, against shaitan. Someone can't keep a job and is talking about Islam and khilafah. Help yourself, get a job, take care of your parents. What kind of a deen are you practicing? Brothers and sisters, we're laughing, we know, but we know, brothers, what's really going on. And we have to challenge these kind of people, because if they don't take care of their family, what are they going to take care of the Muslims? And it's also helpful to take care of the struggle that we find the youth are in, because they want the money. No one's saying to you, don't earn money, earn halal money, not haram. Don't do haram stuff, do the halal things. Stop doing the violence and the drugs and these kind of things. May Allah give us a tawfiq to understand that point. The fifth one, and inshallah I'll mention only two more for the sake of the time, is the knowledge. One of the challenges the youth are facing is ignorance of their deen and also ignorance of the dunya. But the deen is a priority first. You must know your religion. Many of our youth, they're not studying Islam. And maybe there's not enough opportunities for them. That's maybe that could be an excuse in some places. But in a city like here, in Slough or in London, there's opportunities. Alhamdulillah, da'wah is running. We must push our youth toward talab al-ilm, to seek knowledge, because knowledge calms you down and matures you, makes you serious. Because then you learn about the responsibility you have. Talib al-ilm is the one who learns etiquette. He learns how to behave. He learns adab ma'allah. He learns how to take care of his parents, and he learns how to take care of the neighbor. But no ilm, you have jahl, and jahl is dangerous because that person could do anything. We need to encourage our youth to seek knowledge. If they have so much energy and free time, what's the best utilization of time? Is ilm. But today what happens is that we might push our youth towards secular studies. And again, secular studies are haram, as long as they're not doing something haram to earn it. But the secular studies is secondary. Islamic studies are primary. Allah will ask us Yawm al-Qiyamah about our Islamic studies. Now, how much you got on your finals in the A level? Allah's not going to ask us about that. You do your best, but when it comes to your deen, Allah's going to ask you. But what's happening today is that many times when it comes to ilm shar'i, legislative knowledge, some of our parents, some of our elders, they look at it, whoever studies Islamic knowledge, what will they do with their life? This is the mentality, the shubha they throw at you. What are you going to do with yourself? As if when you seek Allah's knowledge, the wahy Allah brings to you, you just going to become nothing. What kind of thought is that? We know if you seek Islamic knowledge, Allah will provide for you. Whoever fears Allah, Allah makes a way out for him. And also the Hadith Anas of the man, the two brothers, one who was an employee, right? The employee who complained about his brother who used to sit with Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Hadith Tirmidhi. One Sahabi, another Sahabi. One is the employee, he works. The other one is in the masjid doing talab al-ilm. The employee came to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam complaining about his brother. What did Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say to to the employee, لَعَلَّكَ تُرْزَقَ بِهِ. Maybe he's providing for you. Maybe he's providing for you because he's doing the right things, learning deen. Some of our parents, if they knew this, would send everyone to Medina and to Yemen and say, go study. Inshallah, bring us the rizq by way of it. But we didn't know that. No one told us that. So what happens, we tell them, don't study. That's the last thing you need to do. And what's happening also is that who are we sending to study our deen? Brothers and sisters, now we have in our society someone who failed all his exams. He failed everything. Okay, send him to the madrasa. Maybe he has a hope there. And the one who's intelligent, he's studying the science. And then later we find out the one who was studying science became mulhid. What did you expect? He's so intelligent, he left the deen. He was jahil. He had the good mind, but no deen. The time of the Sahaba and Salaf was the opposite, brothers, opposite. And I was reading one of the books, Imam Sahnun al-Maliki, he mentioned in his time, 3rd century, this is Africa, North Africa, that when it comes to tarbiyat awlad, he said the child starts learning the Quran around 7 years of age. The hifz. If his hifz is no good and his mind is slow, yes, what he learns how the surah he needs for salah, then he goes learn some craft or something. The one whose hifz is good, then he goes for talab ilm. That one we need. The one who's intelligent for talab, the one he's no good, okay, he go study how to make the other things, the sana'at. Today is the opposite. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Now we say, oh, he's very smart. We must send him. Brothers and sisters, then we complain later, where's our scholars? Where are our teachers? Where are you doing? Where were the smart ones we had or the bright ones? So ilm, we must encourage it. But also balance ilm with dunya with deen. For even the talib ilm shaykh, he needs a good amount of the dunya sciences for his knowledge as well of the world. And scholars, they talk about this, especially those who are senior in knowledge, that they need to know what's going on in society. Some of the scholars, they say that it's important for the shaykh even to be aware of different ulum, so when he passes fatwa, he has a good conception of what he's passing fatwa about. And the fatwa is فرع عن تصوري, the fatwa and the issue is a branch of the conception. The last one, brothers and sisters, to tackle for our youth is the free time. Free time comes with young age because you don't have too much to do yet. Our youth today, with the free time, they wasted. نعمتان مغبون فيهما كثير من الناس الصحة والفراغ. Two things most of the people they waste is free time and good health. And what's happening now is that many youth, they realize when they're free of time, it's time to play games, have your share of fun, which is not haram. But when you do excess, every day, all day playing games, every day, all day at the soccer pitch, every day, all day in the street corner, what happens? You waste away your best years until you regret. And this is why so many youth are in trouble, because they always think, I have nothing to do, because you don't want anything to do. If you told me you're doing it once in a while, you have a break, you gather with the brothers, you sit, you enjoy, وَإِنَّ الْجَسَدَ عَلَيْكَ حَقًّا. No one's saying it's haram. It's okay, take your share of that. But why we find today our youth, all day, every day, we find them in strange hours outside, in strange timings, when people are working, people are doing something for their dunya and akhirah, they're wasting away. Free time is a fitna, a double-edged sword. And we should also remind them that if you have free time, busy it with good, otherwise you will busy it with evil. And the busyness is of two types, good one and bad one. If you're busy with talab ilm, or working, or taking care of your family, or doing some errands, or volunteering and helping the masjid, mashallah, your busyness is good for you. But someone, you say, come akhi to the masjid, I'm busy. The question was asked with what? That's the question. No, okay, you're busy. Maybe next time. Busy, when you come home, you come to him, he's playing games. That's what he meant with busyness. شَغَلَتْنَا أَمْوَالُنَا وَأَهْلُونَا فَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَنَا. Those Sahaba, some of them who missed the battle came late. They said, Rasulullah, we're busy with the family and wealth. They're busyness, for pardon us. That was a blameworthy busyness because it was something they had to do. And they got busy. Today, sometimes you eat the time busy, he's sleeping. You don't know because he told you, he texted you, I'm busy. And so we have to always find out, if you're always busy from khair, you're not busy, you're mahroom, you're being deprived. So we need to teach people busyness of types, and no one can be busy all the time. And when you get older, as the hadith began with, you will get busy. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Fitnatu rajuli fi ahlihi wa malihi wa nafsihi wa waladihi wa jarihi." A person when he gets older to be a fitna for him by way of his family, his wealth, his own self, and his children and his neighbor. And the scholars comment here means that the busyness when these responsibilities, when you get them, will busy you an kathirin min khair, from a lot of good. So if you know when you're young, tomorrow you'll be busy because you're going to have a family, make sure you get things done now before you get busy. If I know today I have some time to do something, I'm going to try to memorize the Quran now before I have to get busy. Or if I know, for example, now I have a light schedule, I got to busy myself in helping the community for it. Tomorrow I get more responsibility like this. And we also know the Sahaba and Salaf used to be busy, but they balanced themselves by trying their best to be busy in the things that they had to do, but also things they need to do. Talab al-ilm, helping the community, the da'wah. They knew that they had to have balance. Umar radiallahu ta'ala is a great example, and I'll conclude with this. Umar radiallahu ta'ala in his time, he was a businessman, he has a big family, he's a second man to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a lot of responsibilities. Him and his neighbor struck a deal to seek knowledge. He studies one day with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the neighbor goes the next day. When Umar is studying, his neighbor is working. Then when neighbor is studying, Umar is working. Then they share the knowledge they miss. You see, brothers, this is how we do it. When we are working, you miss the class, your brother's there. When you finish, send me the notes. Send me the audio, I have to catch up where I am. Somebody say, I was busy, I missed the class. Then what's the excuse? You didn't get the audio, you didn't get the tape, you didn't get the notes. That's part of our responsibility. So you see how Umar is balancing it. Why? Because he knows he can't be there every day. But he didn't say, oh, I'm busy working now, I can't come any day. You know, who works 7 days a week, 24 hours? No schedules like that. But even the times when you're working and you're missing something, you have to also be eager to gain the knowledge and the benefit, because you know if you miss it, it'll be against you. One day Umar, he was with the Sahaba, and then they taught him an etiquette. They're talking about the etiquette, about knocking 3 times at the door, and then when the person doesn't answer, he leaves. Right? So Umar didn't know about this. And then when they finally told him and they proved it to him, he said, Al-hani as-safqu bil-aswaq. The busyness, my work, the busyness of the clapping in the markets, because the time when you do business, in that time when you wanted to get people to come to your stall, you used to clap to get them to come your way. He said the busyness in the market made me miss that hadith. He was feeling bad about it. You see, we have to push ourselves. If we're busy, catch them khair. But our youth today, they're not even busy, they're being deprived. So what we do is we take these challenges head on. We create a program for our youth. And the way we can do it is when we see young people in the masjid or our houses, we create a structure for them. Keep them away from too much free time. Give them responsibilities when they're young. Teach them the deen before they get older. Give them, for example, encouragement. Kalam, give them, speak to them, kalimat tayyibah, good words to them. You see, sometimes we see the youth, you tell them, inshallah, you're going to be the future. What are you learning? You're going to be next to da'iyah. Now tell them, sometimes, when we grew up, we were kind of ousted maybe from the gatherings or told to go out and play. No, we tell you to come, you sit. Umar radiallahu ta'ala in his majlis, when he used to pass the fatwa, Abdullah ibn Abbas is sitting there. Abbas is a sabi, he's a child. So some of the Ansar complained, he said, we have children like him, how come our children can't sit in your majlis? He said, he has the knowledge of the tafsir that your children don't. He said, well, the problem made dua for him. He sit in the majlis. Imam al-Zuhri one day he gathered the shabab and said, don't be looking down on yourselves because you're young. Nabi Umar used to gather the youth and ask them questions and help to pick their brain to solve problems. But today when we see the youth, sometimes we just tell them, just have fun. Just go there. We don't need you now. If the elderly are not helping them, how they're going to get better? And just remember, brothers, at the final point, those around us, they don't want good for our youth, some of them. When they see our youth free of time, mashallah, energetic, they will bring them into the haram. They will use and suck away their talent towards all kinds of fawahish and fasad. We see it today. A good youth who's in a community, maybe they're not the best, or he's in a community where the youth are all over the place. If we don't encourage him and push him to do well, then someone else is going to make him a bad person. You see some youth, mashallah, who are doing good, we just know they're coming from a good support system. And some youth, they were good, and they got snatched by those around them evil. So we need to also counter it by being helpful, responsible, looking after them. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is lenient with the youth, even with their mistakes, because he wants to develop them. He needs to bring more of them to the khair. He wants good for them. But if we also look today, we might notice that because of this disconnect, because their culture is different than ours, their time is different than ours, then the youth will just move away from us. Now when we go to some masajid, we don't see any of the youth. That's always a sign of danger. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to take what we said and to act upon it and to get some kind of benefit by way of it, but also share it to those who need it most. My youth, wa akhiru da'wana, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.